Have you ever wondered how homeless people survive 3 days of rain in cheap tents? Ground moisture rises, condensation builds, fabric fails. Yet they stay dry using 10-layered strategies most campers never learn. Here's exactly how they do it. Site selection. Location prevents 80% of water problems before rain starts. Elevated ground matters more than tent quality. Never pitch in valleys or depressions where water collects. Natural drainage slopes channel water away from your tent instead of toward it. Tree canopy reduces direct rain impact by 40 to 60%. Avoid ground under dead trees that fall during storms. Gravel and sand drain water. Clay floods. Urban locations work differently. Highway overpasses provide concrete protection. Upper levels of parking garages stay completely dry. Bridge underpasses offer covered sides. The high and dry rule means always positioning uphill from water sources. Scout and set up 12 hours before rain hits. The perfect tent in the wrong location equals soaked. Trench digging. Shallow trenches 2 to 3 inches deep around the tent perimeter redirect water flow. Position the trench 6 to 12 inches away from the tent base. This channels water downhill away from the tent. The uphill side is most critical because that's where water comes from. Use sticks, flat rocks, hands, or any available tool. 20 to 30 minutes of work prevents 70% of ground flooding. Digging too close undermines the tent floor. Pile dirt on the downhill side to create a berm. In urban settings, position tents where pavement slopes naturally drain water away. Check and clear trenches every 8 to 12 hours during rain because leaves and trash block channels and create backups. Ground barrier system. Stop moisture rising from saturated earth by placing a tarp under the tent, not just inside. The tarp should extend 6 inches beyond the tent footprint and fold up at the edges, creating a tub shape. This prevents ground moisture from wicking through the tent floor. Proper layering goes ground to tarp to tent floor to sleeping pad to person. Blue construction tarps cost $8. Plastic sheeting or flattened trash bags work equally well. Tape seams using duct tape to join multiple bags into larger sheets. Cardboard from dumpsters blocks capillary action but disintegrates when wet and requires daily replacement. The best combination uses plastic on bottom, cardboard in the middle, and tent floor on top. Discarded carpet padding provides free insulation plus moisture barrier. Wooden pallets elevate the entire tent 4 to 6 inches off ground, creating an air gap between ground and tent floor that serves as a dry zone. Source pallets behind grocery stores or construction sites. Rainfly layering multiple roof layers create redundancy when one fails. The tent rainfly, if your tent has one, serves as first defense. Suspend a secondary tarp 12 to 18 inches above the rainfly. The air gap between layers prevents condensation transfer from one surface to another. The larger tarp should overhang the tent by 2 to 3 feet on all sides, creating a dry zone around the tent entrance. Tie rope or cord to trees, fence posts, or stakes for suspension. In urban areas, tie to chain link fences, dumpsters, or shopping carts. Angle matter enormously. Steep pitch at 45 degrees or more sheds water faster than flat surfaces. Flat tarps pull water and the weight causes collapse. Secure tarp edges to ground using guy lines to prevent wind from lifting edges. Use rocks as anchors where stakes won't penetrate pavement. Blue poly tarps are cheap and widely available. Inspect for rips and weak grommets before storms. Carry duct tape to patch holes mid-storm. Carry a backup tarp for when the primary fails at 2 in the morning. Condensation management. Human breath releases 1 pint of water vapor per night. 3 days equals 3 pints of moisture inside a sealed tent. Everything gets wet from inside, not just from outside rain. Ventilation is critical even during downpours. Crack tent vents to let hot humid air rise and escape through top vents while cool dry air enters through ground vents if they're above water level. Set up cross breeze with vents on opposite sides. Some rain mist enters but condensation exits. And wet from rain mist is less damaging than wet from condensation. Wipe the tent ceiling every morning using absorbent cloth, like cotton t-shirts, towels, or bandanas. Wring the cloth outside the tent. Collect silica gel packets from shoeboxes, electronics packaging, and beef jerky bags. Homeless people collect these obsessively because they're free. Scatter 20 to 30 packets around the tent interior, and replace them daily when they lose effectiveness after saturation. Never position gear against tent walls where condensation drips down. The center of the tent is the driest zone. Open all vents and air out the tent for 30 minutes during any break in rain. Gear organization. Create zone storage with a wet zone near the entrance for rain gear and a dry zone far from the door. String rope across the tent ceiling and use carabiners to hang bags off the ground. Store critical items in 5-gallon buckets with lids for documents, electronics, and dry clothes. Use nested bags with items in plastic bags, inside larger bags, inside backpacks. Build elevated sleeping platforms using crates or backpacks as risers to get 4 to 6 inches off the tent floor. Keep shoes in plastic bags when not worn. Rotate 3 pairs of socks minimum, with 1 worn, 1 drying, and 1 emergency dry. Protect electronics by keeping phones in double Ziplocs. Store food in sealed containers. Eat crackers and bread first because they get soggy. Save canned goods for day 3. Check zones daily and move items from wet to dry areas. Entry and exit protocol. The tent door is the primary water entry point, and every opening creates a water intrusion opportunity. Minimize exits to 2 or 3 times per day, maximum during heavy rain. Use a bottle for urination to avoid leaving the tent. Handle bathroom emergencies with quick exits and immediate returns. If your tent has a vestibule, stage wet items there and remove wet gear before entering the main tent space. Take off rain jackets in the vestibule and hang them to drip. Leave boots in the vestibule, never in the sleeping area. Shake vigorously before entry to remove 60% of water. Keep a towel at the door and wipe down before crossing the threshold. This dedicated entry towel stays wet, but that doesn't matter. Clean zippers daily by wiping with dry cloth because zippers fail from debris and corrosion. Lubricate zippers with candle wax to help them glide and become water resistant. Broken zippers equal tent failure, so keep duct tape ready for emergency seals. Position the door facing away from wind and rain direction with the door on the leeward side. Monitor wind and reposition the tent if wind shifts, though this is rare. For night exits, stage flashlight and rain gear by the door and know where gear is in pitch dark. Create a covered porch area by extending a 3x3 foot tarp over the entrance as a dry staging zone. Place a floor mat of scrap carpet or cardboard outside the door and wipe feet before entry to track in less moisture. In multi-person tents, designate one person for exits to minimize intrusions. Solo strategy requires planning all exits to combine bathrooms with water collection and food checks. Inspect for new leaks after every door opening, because pressure changes when doors open can force water through weak seams. Food and water. 3 days without leaving a tent requires supplies pre-positioned before the storm. Shop for non-perishables requiring no cooking, including peanut butter, crackers, canned goods, and granola bars. Store 2 gallons minimum of water for 72 hours. Position bottles and containers outside the tent to collect rainwater, which is potable in most areas, though you should avoid the first 20 minutes that rinse pollutants. Urban rain contains more contamination from roof runoff and pollution. Filter through cloth to remove debris if possible, though boiling is difficult in tents due to fire risk and ventilation issues. Accept cold meals as reality for 3 days. Open canned goods with a P38 can opener costing $1 and small enough for keychains, or use backup methods like knives, rocks, or concrete edges. Use plastic spoons because they're lightweight and don't rust. Manage trash in sealed bags because odor attracts animals and insects. Hang trash in trees if possible, or keep inside the tent only during heavy rain and remove at first break. Use wet wipes and hand sanitizer for hand washing to avoid water waste. Accept limited hygiene as reality for 72 hours. Brush teeth and spit outside the tent using minimal water. Keep food in the dry zone in sealed containers. Moisture ruins bread, crackers, and chips, so eat these early. Canned meat, peanut butter, and dried fruit last longest. Prioritize high-calorie foods in small volumes because space is limited and you can't store 3 days of bulky food. Minimize movement to need fewer calories. Ration supplies because storms could extend to day 4. Avoid cooking smells that attract attention during stealth camping. Eat cold, odorless foods to reduce visibility. Make morning meals largest to provide energy for potential exits and evening meals light for easier sleep. Monitor hydration critically because you don't notice thirst in tents. Check pee bottle color and drink more if urine is dark. Emergency backup. Tent failure rate during 72-hour rain reaches 30% for cheap tents through seam failure, where stitching lets water through, floor tears from pressure and sharp objects underneath, zipper failure from corrosion debris and force, and pole collapse from wind weight and metal fatigue. When tents fail at 2 in the morning in pouring rain, you must know emergency shelter options before the storm, including 24-hour locations like Walmart, hospital emergency room waiting rooms, and train or bus stations. Pre-map walking distance from your tent and memorize routes for night navigation when you can't see in the storm. Build backup tarp shelters if the tent fails by creating A-frame configuration with rope between two trees and tarp over the rope as peaked roof with ground tarp underneath and open sides providing 70% rain protection, or lean-to style with tarp angled against tree or wall for simple fast setup. Keep an emergency gear bag always packed for grab and go containing dry clothes, identification, phone, cash, and medications sealed in plastic as waterproof and positioned by tent exit for immediate access during evacuation. Practice grabbing it so you know exactly where it is in darkness. Use buddy systems if other homeless are nearby for emergency shelter sharing, where two tents provide backup if one fails. Morning check-ins through texts or knocks confirm safety, and psychological comfort comes from not being alone in crisis. No public shelter hours and policies because some open during storms as emergency weather. Shelters, though registration may require intake process and bed availability runs, first come with limited space, requiring decision timing, think about leaving at midnight or waiting until 5 in the morning. If vehicles are available, cars are better than failed tents for sleeping during tent emergencies, with return to tent when rain stops to assess damage. Use bridges and overpasses for urban emergency options providing dry concrete coverage, though visibility to police may result in removal, making this short-term until tent repair is possible. Attempt tent repair mid-storm using duct tape to seal small holes and seam failures. Tarp over failure points as external patches, and retighten guy lines that may solve sagging and pooling, accepting you'll get soaked while working in rain to save shelter. Use decision matrix where small leaks mean repair and endure, while major failure means evacuate immediately. The wet bug out where everything is soaked but you're leaving anyway happens to most homeless eventually, and isn't failure but reality of cheap gear plus extreme weather. Recovery happens at laundromats, shelters, or waiting for sun. Veteran perspective says surviving the storm means still being alive when it ends, even if the tent didn't make it. These 10 strategies keep homeless people alive through 72-hour rainstorms with razor-thin margins for error. Every person surviving 3 days in a tent during continuous rain learned through failure, through waking in puddles, through losing everything to mold, through near-fatal hypothermia.